You know exactly what you need to do. You want it, really want it. And somehow, again and again, you don't do it. You procrastinate on the thing that matters most. You pick a fight right when the relationship is going well. You get within reach of the goal, and then, mysteriously, you blow it up. And afterward, you tell yourself the old story. I'm lazy. I have no discipline. Something is wrong with me. Here is what Carl Jung would tell you instead, and it changes everything. You are not lazy, and nothing is wrong with you. A part of you is doing something, on purpose, skillfully, relentlessly. It is not broken. It is protecting you. The self-sabotage that has frustrated you your whole life is not a failure of willpower. It is a hidden part of you with its own agenda working perfectly toward a goal you never consciously chose. By the end of this, you'll understand what that part of you actually wants, why it keeps winning, and how to finally stop fighting yourself. Stay with me, because you were never the problem. Let's name the pattern first, because almost everyone knows it from the inside. It's the strange, maddening experience of wanting something and then watching yourself do the exact opposite. You sit down to do the important work, and suddenly the kitchen needs cleaning. You finally have the chance you wanted, and you sleep through the alarm. The closer you get to the thing you say you want, the stronger the invisible resistance becomes. Think of Jonah, who spent 2 years building toward launching his own work. And then, the week before he was finally ready, found a dozen reasons to delay, picked a pointless conflict, and quietly let the moment pass. From the outside, it looked like bad luck or bad timing. From the inside, he had the sick, familiar feeling of having done it to himself again. And here's the crucial thing. This is not a discipline problem. People who sabotage themselves are often intensely disciplined everywhere else. The resistance is too precise, too well-timed, too targeted at exactly the things that matter most to be simple laziness. It behaves less like weakness and more like a plan. Why this matters? If your sabotage strikes hardest right where you care most, it isn't random. Something is aiming it. Notice how targeted it is. The same person who can't make themselves start the meaningful project will happily reorganize the entire garage. The one who freezes before the important conversation can talk for hours about anything else. The resistance isn't general, it's surgical. It shows up only at the threshold of the things that could actually change your life. That precision is the first clue that this isn't a flaw in your character. It's a function, one that switches on at very specific moments, for very specific reasons. What is doing the aiming? This is where Jung's understanding of the mind changes the whole picture. We like to imagine we are a single, unified I, one person, one will in charge of ourselves. Jung saw that this is largely an illusion. The psyche is not one thing. It's a collection of parts, and some of them are what he called autonomous complexes, split off clusters of feeling and memory that can operate on their own, with their own intentions, entirely outside your conscious control. Jung put it with unforgettable precision. Everyone knows people have complexes, he said, but what matters far more and is far less understood is that complexes can have us. Read that again. A part of you, born long ago from some wound or fear, can take the wheel, and when it does, it will act in its own interest, not yours, no matter what your conscious mind has decided. This is the saboteur. It is not a metaphor and not an excuse. It is a real, semi-independent part of your own psyche, and it is strong enough to override the you that makes New Year's resolutions. Why this matters now? You are not failing to control yourself. You are being quietly overruled by a part of yourself you haven't met. Picture the psyche less like a single ruler and more like a room full of people, each with a different history and a different want. Most of the time, they cooperate enough that you feel like one you. But when a powerful complex is activated, when something touches the old wound it formed around, it can seize the whole system, flooding you with its feeling, its urgency, its agenda. In that moment, you aren't choosing, you're being driven. And afterward, the calmer parts return and wonder, honestly baffled, why did I do that? The answer is that, for a while, someone else inside you was at the wheel. This is also why just try harder so reliably fails. You can't out-discipline a part of yourself that's stronger than your conscious will and convinced it's saving your life. Why would part of you fight so hard against the very thing you want? The answer unlocks everything. Self-sabotage is almost never self-destruction. It is misguided self-protection. That saboteur formed for a reason. Somewhere, long ago, wanting something and reaching for it led to pain, failure, humiliation, rejection, loss. And a part of you concluded, with a child's logic, that the safest thing is to never fully try, never be fully seen, never risk the fall. So now, every time you approach the edge of success, that part does its job. It pulls you back to safety, exactly as it was designed to. Think of Priya, who could never finish the project that could change her career. She called it perfectionism, procrastination, laziness. But underneath, a frightened part of her had a flawless strategy. If you never finish, it can never be judged, and you can never fail. The sabotage wasn't attacking her, it was guarding her from a humiliation she felt as a child and never wanted to feel again. Every saboteur is like this. Behind the behavior that looks like weakness is a part trying, in an outdated way, to keep you safe. Why this matters? You cannot defeat a bodyguard by calling it lazy. You have to understand what it thinks it's protecting. And what it's protecting is almost always more tender than it looks. Underneath the impressive, frustrating machinery of self-sabotage is usually a very young, very simple fear. That you're not enough, that you'll be exposed as a fraud, that if you reach and fail, it will confirm the worst thing you secretly believe about yourself. The saboteur would rather you never try than risk proving that true. So it keeps you safe in a small, familiar life, not because it wants you to fail, but because in its logic, a life not fully lived is a life that can't fully hurt you. It's love badly aimed, protection that is hardened into a prison. And here is why this is so hard to see, and why it feels so much like a curse. Because the saboteur works below your awareness, you don't experience it as a choice. You experience it as fate. Jung wrote something that names this exactly. When an inner situation is not made conscious, he said, it appears outside as fate. Read that slowly, because it's the whole thing. The conflict you refuse to see inside yourself doesn't disappear. It plays out in your life as events, as bad luck, as this always happens to me. The person who unconsciously fears success will keep happening to lose it and will call themselves unlucky. The one who fears love will keep finding partners who can't stay and call it fate. It isn't fate. It's an inner situation, unmet, arranging your outer life to match it. And this is strangely good news, because the moment the pattern stops being fate and becomes something you can see, a part of you, with a fear, doing a job, it also becomes something that can change. What is unconscious runs you. What is conscious, you can finally begin to work with. There's a particular relief the first time someone sees this clearly. The moment the story shifts from "I'm broken and I keep ruining things" to "a frightened part of me has been running an old protection program." Nothing external has changed yet, and already everything feels different because you've stopped being your own villain. And that matters more than it sounds, because shame is the saboteur's best cover. As long as you're busy hating yourself for the pattern, you'll never get curious enough to actually understand it. And there's a quiet dignity in seeing it this way. The very intelligence and will you've been turning against yourself were never the problem. They were conscripted by a frightened part into a war you didn't know you were fighting. Reclaim them, and the same force that sabotaged you becomes the force that finally builds the life you wanted. What do you do with it then? Here's where most people go exactly wrong. They declare war on the saboteur. More discipline, more force, more self-attack, beating the lazy part into submission. But you cannot win a war against yourself, because both sides are you. Every ounce of force you use to crush the resistance uses right back. That's why willpower alone almost always loses in the end. It's you, exhausting yourself, fighting you. Jung's way is the opposite of war. The saboteur is not an enemy to be defeated. It's a frightened, exiled part of you, using the only strategy it ever learned. It doesn't need to be crushed. It needs to be understood. The moment you stop attacking the part that's holding you back and get curious about it instead, what are you afraid of? What are you trying to protect me from? Something shifts. The energy that went into the internal war becomes available for the actual life. You don't overpower the saboteur. You make peace with it, and it slowly lays down its arms. Think of it as a frightened guard who's been at their post so long they've forgotten the war ended. You don't get past them by attacking. That only proves the danger is real and makes them grip harder. You get past them by approaching slowly, showing them the threat they're braced against is old, and letting them see for themselves that it's finally safe to stand down. Every part of you that sabotages is, in the end, waiting for exactly that. Not to be defeated, but to be relieved of a duty it never wanted and never knew how to put down. In practice, it begins not with force, but with curiosity. The next time you catch yourself getting in your own way, don't reach for self-attack. Pause and ask a different question. Not, what's wrong with me? But, what is this protecting me from? Follow it honestly. Under the procrastination, what feeling waits? Under the self-destruction, what fear? Almost always, you'll find something young and afraid, guarding an old wound. Then, name it. Bring the pattern fully into the light, because Jung was right that what stays unconscious controls us, and what we make conscious, we can finally choose. Notice when the saboteur tends to appear, what triggers it, what it's always trying to prevent, and finally, instead of overriding the fear, address it. Reassure the frightened part that the stakes now are not the stakes then, that you can survive being seen, failing, being judged in a way the child never could. And then, gently, in small doses, you act anyway, while the frightened part watches. Not a heroic leap, just one small move toward the thing you've been avoiding, done while reassuring the scared part that you've got it now. Each time you approach the edge and don't collapse, that part gathers evidence that the catastrophe it fears isn't coming, and slowly its grip loosens. Jonah, the one who sabotaged his launch for 2 years, didn't beat his resistance into submission. He finally sat with it and asked what it was so afraid of, and found underneath a boy who'd once been laughed at for trying. When he understood that, the war ended. He was still scared when he finally launched. But this time the frightened part wasn't driving. It was simply along for the ride, held instead of in control. This is individuation in its most practical form, not defeating the parts of yourself, but integrating them until the part that once had to stop you no longer needs to, and the energy it took to sabotage your life is finally free to build it. Here's the question to sit with tonight. The thing you keep getting in your own way about. What if the part of you blocking it isn't weak or broken, but afraid? What is it trying to protect you from? Tell me in the comments, where do you get in your own way? And what do you think that part of you is guarding? Naming it is where its grip begins to loosen. I read every reply. And if this gave you a kinder, truer way to see your own struggle, subscribe and stay close. We're learning to make the unconscious conscious together, one honest piece at a time. Because you were never your own enemy. You were only, for a long time, a house with rooms you hadn't entered yet.